I've always loved art. The way it captures emotion, the way it tells a story, it's always fascinated me. But not all art is meant to be admired. Some pieces carry a darkness, a malevolence that can consume anyone who comes into contact with them. This is the story of the cursed painting, and how it destroyed my family. It was a rainy afternoon when I found the painting. I was browsing a small, cluttered antique shop on the edge of town, the kind of place that smells like dust and old wood. The owner, an elderly woman with piercing blue eyes, watched me from behind the counter as I wandered through the aisles. That's when I saw it, a large, oil painting of a family. The figures were detailed, their faces filled with a strange, unsettling expression. The background was dark and shadowy, with hints of something lurking just out of sight. But what caught my attention was the eyes. They seemed to follow me, no matter where I stood. How much for the painting? I asked, holding it up for the owner to see. She hesitated, her eyes narrowing. That one's not for sale. Why not? I asked, intrigued. She shook her head. It's cursed. Bad things happen to those who take it. I laughed, though her words sent a chill down my spine. I don't believe in curses, I said. Name your price. She studied me for a long moment, then sighed. Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you. I took the painting home and hung it in the living room. It looked out of place among my modern furniture, its dark, ominous tones giving it an almost sinister air. But I didn't mind. I thought it added character. That night, I woke to the sound of whispering. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the sound was too deliberate, too close. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, and listened. The whispers were coming from the living room, soft and indistinct, like a crowd of people murmuring just out of sight. I grabbed my flashlight and crept downstairs, my heart pounding. The living room was empty, but the painting was different. The figures had moved. Their faces were twisted into grotesque smiles, their eyes filled with malice. I blinked, and the painting returned to normal, but the whispers remained. Hello. I called out, my voice trembling. Is anyone there? The whispers stopped abruptly, and the room fell silent. I stood there for a long moment, my breath visible in the cold air, before retreating to bed. I told myself it was just my imagination, but I didn't sleep a wink that night. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Objects would move on their own, shadows would dart across the walls, and I would hear whispers when no one else was around. The painting was always at the center of it. No matter where I put it, it would always end up back in the living room, its figures staring at me. Then, the dreams started. Every night, I would dream of the family in the painting, their faces pale and their eyes hollow. They would reach out to me, their fingers brushing against the canvas, and whisper, "Join us." I tried to get rid of the painting, but it always found its way back. I threw it in the trash, only to find it hanging on my wall the next morning. I burned it, but it was back in one piece by nightfall. It was as if the painting had a will of its own. Desperate for answers, I went back to the antique shop. The owner wasn't there, but I found an old newspaper clipping tucked behind the counter. It told the story of a family who had lived in the town over a century ago. They had been wealthy and influential, but their lives were plagued by tragedy. One by one, they died under mysterious circumstances, until only the youngest son remained. He disappeared, and the painting was found in his empty bedroom, its canvas cracked and faded. The article ended with a warning: the painting is said to carry the spirits of the family, who seek to add to their number. That night, I decided to confront the painting. I stood in front of it, my heart pounding. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice trembling. The painting didn't respond, but the figures began to change. Their faces twisted and contorted, until they were no longer the family from the painting. They were my family, my wife, my children, their faces pale and their eyes hollow. "Join us," they whispered. "Join us." I stumbled backward, my mind racing. I remembered the dreams, the figures in the painting. "No," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I won't." The figures tilted their heads, their smiles widening. "You have no choice," they whispered. I don't remember how I got out of the house. All I remember is running, the whispers echoing in my ears. I didn't stop until I reached the antique shop. The owner was waiting for me, her eyes filled with pity. "I tried to warn you," she said softly. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice shaking. She handed me a small, weathered box. "Take it back to where it belongs. Bury it deep, and never speak of it again." I did as she said. I buried the painting in the woods, far from my home. The whispers stopped, the dreams faded, and the shadows disappeared. But I know the painting is still out there, waiting for someone else to find it. I still see them sometimes, the figures in the painting. They stand at the edge of the woods, their hollow eyes watching me. And every time I pass a painting, I can't help but glance at it, half expecting to see my family staring back, waiting for me to join them.